Hello, good evening. Welcome everyone to Rail Natter. It's God, what is it? It's the 7th of May 2025. Crikey Mikey. How are we all doing? You all well? Yeah, marvellous. We're talking about trains, which you'd hope for a Rail Natter, wouldn't you? But yeah, we're something maybe a bit different tonight. We're going to be having a look at some proposals for, well, are they even proposals? It's a very strange sort of situation for, I don't even know. How would you describe it? I'm not sure. But we're going to talk a little bit about this Starline high-speed rail proposal, again in inverted commas, for rail that had got some coverage a little while back, and there, it was kind of in amongst the thrust of all the coverage of new channel tunnel services. And then this thing pops up, Starline pops up, looking, well, okay, perhaps snazzy to someone who doesn't know anything about railways, but just instantly looks suspect to anyone who does know even the slightest thing about railways. Yeah, puzzling. So we're going to have a little look at this, talk about it, understand what it is, what the deal is with it, if there's anything of merit within it, why it's come about, things of this nature. Before we do that, I must just say that a reminder that this all happens is enabled. This episode is brought to you by the Patreon supporters. This cannot happen without you. So a reminder, patreon.com/Gareth Dennis. A little bit more on that later. Everyone, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. Actually, before we do that, you reminded me that I need to change this to episode 260 and come up with an episode name, because that's how I roll. Starline's high-speed rail plans. Hello, James. This is Rail Natter. This is plans for Europe. This is how Rail Natter rolls. It's beautifully shonky, and everyone loves it for it. So the good thing is this is easily chopped out of the audio only podcast later, but you all get the bonus updates. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. Anyway, enough of that. Start again. Welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. Well, it's not a news episode, but that's fine. Oh, that's what happens when you set up an episode in 10 minutes. Yeah, that's fine. Again, we can, James, we can fix that in post, can't we? I'll send you the full original. Anyway, as the Intercity 225 fades away, yes, no, let's have a bit of news. There's going to be a little bit of news, but this is not a news episode. Right, who'd have thought? First bit of news. Oh, look, it's a report pointing out that supersized SUVs cause they're much more likely to cause fatal injuries to cyclists and pedestrians, say researchers. SUVs account for more than half of new cars bought in the UK. When I talk about the need for these to be regulated out of existence, this is why. Because it's resulting in more children being killed, and we should simply cease their production. If it was anything else, we would have done so. The idea that we allow this growing pandemic or epidemic to be not just sort of waved through by government, but actively encouraged by it is absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. The next one, US high-speed rail is dead. Well, perhaps not entirely, but federal government or federal funding has been pulled from CalRail, California High-Speed Rail, which is excruciating. A project that's taken a very long time, too long, but was at least getting somewhere, has just had its federal funding pulled, which I suspect will do a lot to kibosh it. Whether it survives this or not, I don't know. I suspect it will struggle, frankly. It really will. So yeah, that's pretty painful, but some interesting last news, which is some happier news, which is that the Scottish Government, having previously said, no, we can't afford this, they magically can afford it again. What is it they can afford? Peak rail fares to be scrapped. So they're getting rid of peak rail fares, taking fares back down to off-peak levels and then making that the norm. So no more will there be peak or off-peak. So they're getting rid of surge pricing, essentially, to manage demand. Let's see what happens. I wonder if the simplicity, well, I would love to see what the data is of the much longer term trial to see what benefit it has in ridership, because 6 months is not really enough to embed behaviours. So I'm interested to see what what happens with that one. But I think certainly in my view that's good news. Simplicity of ticketing, and then growing demand by making rail more appealing is ultimately you're reducing complexity, increasing rail's appeal, and the money that you may lose in having those peak fares you will gain by the broader benefits to society by having more people travelling by train. So this feels. I look forward to digging through the data, which I hope will be published at some point soon, when or maybe in a couple of years when we've had the pickup. But this is the sort of thing. It's a policy that it's one of those rare situations where it's a good policy that's a slow burner. You need to leave it be for a little bit to see what happens. And the trials that we previously had they're not enough to really test it. So yeah, I'm pleased about this. It's some good news. So that was the news. Hello everyone, by the way. Hi. But I'm just going to say, before we crack into the episode, a hello to everyone who was at the WTYP live shows and the 6 days of Sodom tour down the Northeast Corridor. I had great fun popping up and surprising everyone in DC. In fact, shorts are available to show me running out. Not shorts as in the things that you wear, but shorts as in the YouTube shorts, showing me skipping out enthusiastically to cheering audience of 1,000 in DC, which was good fun. And then I went out and said hello to the crowds gathering to be let into the Philly show as well, which is awesome. And they fully filled out the Fillmore. They didn't need to fill any more seats, which was very good. And the tour was a tremendous success. They deserve it. The work they were putting in, Nova as well, putting in seriously late shifts this side of the pond to make it all happen. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So it was lovely to see those of you who I did see. It gave me the itch for more live shows, but actually with more on that later, I suspect there's some news updates on book tours later this year with the fact that my publisher seems to have just completely dissipated from existence. So anyway, we must talk about high-speed trains. Now, high-speed rail in Europe has been around for quite a bit. We've had high-speed rail, actually the Polish got there first with their dedicated 250 kilometre an hour infrastructure, what they call the central... I think they call it the Central Main Line, actually, the Central Main Line Railway in English translation, which was operating in 1977, followed by Italy's Direttissima. Then France came along with the TGV. And then we came along a little bit late to the party, but not that much later to the party if we're allowed to include this in the selection, which we absolutely are. See also previous episodes. With the Selby diversion, of course. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 nice high-speed lines by the very early 80s, so by 83. So there was a little bit of a boost, and then France very much rocketed ahead in the race, but the others have picked up. Spain absolutely roared forwards. Germany miles behind us, way off in the distance, but Central Europe is now catching up with dedicated high-speed lines, Poland particularly, but others as well. So we have a kind of a nascent high-speed rail sort of technology going on now, or a nascent high-speed network growing. So you might think, flash forwards to today, we got a complete network? We absolutely do not. Do we need to have a strategic plan that covers rail infrastructure? We absolutely do. So then where does this Starlines fit in? Well, so let's get this picture back. This thing, I mean, obviously, let's just go for the instant response of, I see the glass doors and the enormous glass frontage, which is obviously completely impossible crashworthiness-wise. I see the enormous glass windows. Don't get me wrong, it'd be lovely if we could have those, probably, but glass is extremely heavy. So you're increasing the weight of your vehicle a lot there. So that's the instant, oh yes, this is renderite. No one real has been involved. No actual engineers or people who understand railways have been involved in this. Glass is extremely heavy, so there's always a balance of how much of it you include. The crashworthiness to one side, where the kit is on these, the lack of OLE, of course, and the general vibes are a little bit off, aren't they, everyone? I mean, you can all see it. Those buffers look horrific. To be fair, those are pretty realistic for some of the buffers you see in certain parts of Europe. So what is this? What was this? Well, this kind of popped up in a news story, particularly with this bloody picture that you can see, because this picture is immediately suspect, because this picture is showing some sort of gadget band type situation. So this got me like, oh god, what is this? What are we looking at? So I thought we'd flick through their sort of puff page, the official puff page, but it came with this article which is Meet Starline, the Europe-wide train of the future. Grand plans needn't be politically divisive. Starline is a grand plan for a trans-European transport network. Red flag number 2 or 3, or is that 7 or 8? Who knows? Why is it referring to a thing that does exist, which is the 10T network? That's a actual European, EU policy to have a European rail network, 10T, of high-speed trains. The first project of 21st Europe. 21st Europe? Oh yes, a new creative agency looking at ways to deploy design to make our lives better. Okay, fascinating. Well, this article was one of those classic articles. Do at me, by the way, if you want to get involved in the chat. It's a live show. Hello, everyone in the chat. So this thing. So, where do you go after driving a decade of innovation in collaboration with IKEA? That was the challenge facing... Okay, yeah, here's the founder and head of a thing called Space 10, an independent think tank and satellite design agency that worked with IKEA for 10 years until August 2023. So, having been binned off by IKEA, they were looking for something else to do. He set up a new agency in Copenhagen intended to take the unifying power of design to a whole new level. It's a unifying concept that brings together disparate transportation systems to create the 10T, the Trans-European Transport Network. Did this person do any research? No, because if they'd Googled this, they'd realise that 10T is the name of the European mainline railway kind of corridors and transport corridors. So, yeah, fascinating. So what we're going to do is, rather than going through this news article, which is mostly guff, to be honest, we're going to go through their own piece, their own sort of publication, to see what they have to say about it. And so here's their little article. Here's the little web page here. 21st Europe, blueprints for a new Europe. Fascinating. And so they've got this very snazzy looking website. Well, snazzy / whatever. We'll go through and we'll pick up some stuff and see what we think. What do we think about this? And I want you in the chat. It's an interactive episode. I want you to be picking up what you can see. Is think tank a red flag yet? Not entirely. GJ Marsh is going, I suppose the big question is this a business or a campaign? A campaign drives awareness, but a business with made-up trains distracts. Yeah, quite, George. And that, we'll get to that. And there's a place for both. Even a think tank with commercial intent can do something that's useful, but it has to... We'll kind of get to this point later on, but you're right. The theme of this is that it comes back to our previous Crane East episodes from a while back about what's the purpose of creating a new plan or a new idea, and also what a plan actually is something we need to talk about. But what is the purpose of it? What's it intending to do? What's it intending to boost? Is it intending to accelerate existing plans or encourage existing plans to be bolder? For example, my Glasgow plans from a few weeks ago, those aren't intended to say anything that's out there right now is rubbish. They're intended to say, look at what you could do and be bold. You could do something really exciting. Make sure your aspirations are sky high. Not, as we've seen with other plans, for example, High Speed North, or what is it, UK... No, I can't remember. Colin Elf and Quentin MacDonald's anti-HS2 plans, which were actively seeking to disrupt real plans that were in progress, and therefore were actively counter to achieving what we want to collectively do so in terms of creating railways. So, yeah, let's go through this and see what we think about this and whether we reckon that these plans are of any use or not. So let's have a little scroll through. So, Starline, there we go. A high-speed future for Europe. Europe has always been shaped by movement. Yep. All right. This is also, by the way, remember some of my old bait and switches. I can't remember whether I did it in a RailNat or I did it in a presentation. I certainly talk about it in the book, but one of the classic ploys of sales pitch people who are not really interested in the future but kind of trying to sell you something is they will do a classic bait and switch of, I'm noticing, by the way, that the picture of the heading of the page is of technological nonsense, which is not a great start. Anyway, the intention of there's the bait and switch. So you put a load of stuff that's fundamentally true, a load of stuff that is absolutely right. So they're saying here, today, Europe's rail network reflects its political complexity. Fragmented, uneven, often slow. High-speed travel is defaulted to air. That's not entirely true, actually, while rail lags behind. Disjointed by national borders, outdated systems, and a lack of cohesion. Absolutely. So the bait and switch is that you take the real thing, and then what you do is, rather than providing a real solution, you provide a bump solution, but with a whole load of justification that's real, to start with, to make people feel like you know what you're talking about and feel like it's correct and justified. Mr. Geisnels is saying this poisons the discourse in places like Portugal, where connecting to Europe has this mythological quality, a cargo and passenger cult that we are not European enough. Thank you, Mr. Geisnels. That's very interesting. Lewis Bergen saying it must be encouraging bolder plans. Their Starline brand looks like a dig at Eurostar costs. Well, quite. There is some element of that, isn't there? Railways have never been just about transport. They are lines drawn through history and society. Starline is about redrawing them, not to divide, but to connect, to make a continent feel whole again. Well, sure. Railways are always about more than transport. That's, one of the things I point out in the book. So here's their little plan. Immediately you're going, okay, London to Liverpool. Interesting choice. There's any logic there. Liverpool to Dublin. Well, as we know from previous Railway episodes, that does make good sense. So interesting. Okay. But yeah, what exactly? It's interesting that they're just seem to have totally ignored the fact that there is a high-speed rail network in several of these places, and this seems to be ignoring quite a few of them. So what's with that? So how much of this do you think is going to be bump? I'm paying attention to the scroll. At the moment, we are scrolled maybe 1/10 of the way in. So we've got some paragraph headings, numbered headings, a geopolitical case. So here we go, blah, blah, blah. Actually, have they mentioned... So they've immediately gone in to say... They're immediately saying 10T. Oh, okay. So here we go. So this is interesting. So the press article is clearly misinterpreted. So here we can see Europe has success stories. France's TGV, Spain's AVE, Germany's ITSE, but they remain national products rather than a cohesive system. Yeah, I'd agree with that. The Trans-European Transport Network, 10T, aims to unify infrastructure, but it lacks speed and ambition. Again, agreed. So you can see the actual bump here rather than the press isn't trying to ape 10T. So fair play, that's fine, okay. A truly integrated rail system is no longer just a matter of convenience, it's a strategic necessity for Europe's resilience in the 21st century, for sure. We're still on the bait part of the story here. So generations, low cost, right, fine. Must be more than engineering feat, must make travel intuitive. Yeah, all good stuff. Fine. We're still in the bait without a unified network. Fine. So again, this is all the bait, because they're saying 8 billion passengers travelled by high-speed rail in 2023. Fewer than 9% cross borders. Yep, that's potentially an interesting point. Although you've fewer than 9%, but you've written 10%. What's that? What? 424 major. That's a bit of an error. 424 major cities will be connected to ports, airports, and rail under the EU's 10T plans. Okay, again, yep, that's just a statement of fact irrelevant to any proposals. We could cut emissions by 95% with removing short haul. Sure. In China, each new high-speed rail line contributed up to 7.2% urban GDP growth. Okay, again, bait. All of that's all that's correct. It's all correct. An economic engine, yeah, sure. So fine, yeah, economic growth when you do high speed, fantastic. Yeah, sure. So all this, okay, some nice pictures. There's a smart watch. I mean, you can do that now. I'm pretty sure there is some blur. There's a clock that's EU vibes. There's the Swiss clock that looks very similar to the one that's currently on my person. It's me mundane. I should do this thing. Thanks, November Kelly. So we've got a clock, and then we've got another reproduction of the gadget ban railway thing. So Europe has no shortage of rail investment policies ambition. Okay. 10T is a step in the right direction. Well, wait a minute. You said... Well, you've just said that there isn't. There is a lack of ambition, and I would agree that there's a lack of ambition, but you said there's no shortage of ambition. Okay. A fundamental issue remains, right, okay, what are they saying? A fundamental issue remains the lack of design. Okay. I would say that... I would say it's just political will and funding that's lacking. The design isn't the issue. People, as soon as the trains are there, they're being used. So here's our first big, a hint at a switch, which is, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not saying the usage of railways is perfect. Coherent cross-border ticketing, major problem in Europe. We're moving closer to that, but it's way too slow. It's messy. John Worth is just utterly brilliant on all of that stuff, and I look forward to the cross-border rail project. I also look forward to the outputs from his Channel Tunnel shenanigans. But this, what? This is, wait a minute. No. Actually, when you build on routes where you have a decent high-speed rail corridor versus aviation, rail obliterates air's modal share. So I would say the lack of design, I wouldn't say that's a problem at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I'd say that actually the elements are all pretty good. Don't get me wrong, this ticketing absolutely could and should be better. But so this is to say, not just in the passenger experience where complex ticketing, inconsistent service and outdated stations make rail feel fragmented. Again, I would say that Europe's high-speed stations are pretty epic, actually. There's Antwerp, which was epic. Brussels Midi's a bit tired, but it's fine. I mean, it's tired up at platform level. It's kind of all right down, but I quite like the big corridor underneath. It's better than I remembered it when I was last there. But in the missed opportunity to make rail a defining feature of Europe itself, well, okay, sure, I agree with that, but that's not a problem with lack of design. That's politics. That's suburbanism. That's the rise of car-dominated development. Okay, rail is more than infrastructure. Absolutely, sure, agree with that. It's how people experience the continent. Yeah. Yet, unlike Europe's great public spaces, high-speed rail lacks a unifying vision. Well, yeah, okay, I could agree with that. And you know, one of the potential things that might be quite nice about liberalism is the idea of there being a unified services you can catch. Equally, I quite like going from national operator to national operator. So long as you've got decent frequency, and changes aren't a problem. But okay, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. Stations feel disconnected. I mean, I'm not really sure what you mean by that sentence. Trains vary wildly in design. Well, it's not really. They're all made by bloody one manufacturer these days. Not quite, but it's almost that case. And the journey itself is rarely considered. Oh, by the way, so who is it? So Alstom's latest generation of high-speed train just doesn't work. So it still doesn't work. Having been out and seen a lot of them, the first kind of sold-out fleet sat in sidings in mostly Philly and a few other places, you know, over the weekend. Those trains don't work. So Alstom can't build high-speed trains anymore. Who else? What else have we got? We've got Siemens. I think their Velaro and Velaro Nova platforms are brilliant. Really, really good high-speed high-speed trains. So that's a thing. Whatever Ansaldo Breda became, Hitachi, their long distance trains, the what is it? The 1000s. They're pretty good. They're fine. I don't mind those. I always feel a bit cramped. Those are fine. Talgo have a high speed train that's I think probably fine. What else have we got? I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? What have I forgotten? Someone else shout at me. Yeah. So this is just so I don't really know why that's important, to be honest. And again, I don't think people care about the design of the train, so long as it's an enjoyable experience. In fact, they might quite enjoy the diversity of the train, so long as the quality is good. Other forms of transport, from Japanese bullet trains to Scandinavian airports, have shown that mobility can be both functional and iconic. Ooh, random sort of thing. I would say that TGV was pretty iconic in its day, actually. The orange livery remains the best livery. So what else have we got here? Solving this is not just about more investment, it's about designing a system that is built for the century ahead. Okay, sure, so it's another bait statement. What have we got? Nerdian 1 is saying Antwerp Central is conceptually fun but an accessibility nightmare. Yeah, okay. Yeah, more elevators required. Mr. Guysnails is saying, I think you missed this point above. One of the worst crimes here is presenting one network rather than a network of networks. So in this map here, that we have here, it's showing one network. I can understand them showing one network. I don't really know what they're proposing yet, though, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. So let's scroll down and see what is it they're proposing. At its best, design makes the complex feel simple and the simple significant. Yeah, whatever, sure, fine. Yeah, okay. And so here we go. Starline. There it is. Snazzy. It does feel like a bit of a dig at Eurostar, although equally, given the research they've done here, perhaps it's just they'd never heard of Eurostar and they just used the star word anyway. Welcome to Starline. Starline is a blueprint for a different kind of future. One where blue high-speed trains glide seamlessly across borders, making travel effortless, sustainable, and deeply connected. Okay, yeah, so you're just saying it's high-speed trains, fine. What's different about this? Blueprint for a new high-speed rail network. I mean, it doesn't need to be new. We've got quite a lot of it. Built on existing and planned infrastructure. Okay, so you're just talking about expanding the existing high-speed network, presumably. Okay, fine. Prioritizes speed, sustainability, and simplicity. making high-speed rail the most natural way to move across the continent. Okay. A new continental landmark. It's more than a transport system, it's a statement, a landmark of European ambition. It offers okay, fine. Who owns this? Who's going to own this? And who's paying for it? Again, they're putting this picture of the maglev bullshit up. I don't know what that is. And they've got some lines that they've got here. A, B, C, D, E, none. Okay, fine. So it's a complete rethink of European travel, where tickets, timetables, stations, and trains work as one seamless system. A single European timetable replaces today's complexity, making cross-border journeys as simple and joyful. Didn't finish that sentence. Stations become vibrant public spaces, and the trains themselves are designed for comfort. They're just describing what high-speed rail networks are. The only unique thing we found is the unifying element, the fact that it's got a single distinctive identity, and the deep blue trains. You can just buy deep blue trains. You can always do that. Hello, Detour in the chat, Deirdre. Apologies for the incorrect name pronunciation for 5 years and 260 episodes, but we got there in the end. Let's see. Maglevs aren't practical from an infrastructure perspective. One of my earliest videos was about maglev, wasn't it? Ben Goldacre enjoyed that and sent it around. Yeah, that, and as we know, maglev it's a dead-end technology. Using linear induction for moving regular trains around, as I've travelled on one of those recently, in fact, is fine, actually, and potentially could be quite a neat way of doing certain things, although the technology always seems to be speed limiting, because you're taking even more kit off the train. You don't have to have the motor on the train, which is, again, a positive thing. But that doesn't make it a gadget bank, it's steel on steel, so that's fine. But maglev is a dead-end tech. So we haven't learned anything about what this is yet. It's just lots of very, quite nice photoshops. Fine, lovely. The map, a connected Europe, okay. It expands the 10T network into a bold European high-speed rail system. Okay, well, 10T isn't a high-speed rail system. It's primarily about the key city connections, and the routes that it uses aren't necessarily high-speed routes. But anyway, the focus is on linking countries rather than developing domestic rail. Which would remain a national responsibility. Again, okay. So it seems like what they're driving towards seems that Europe needs to fund a dedicated international or within or intracontinental, let's put it that way, an intracontinental between member rail network. It's like, okay, well, they're not willing to fund local connections yet, and also maybe anyway, okay, let's keep going with this. Every country has at least one station ensuring broad access, while larger economies and key industrial hubs gain additional connections to strengthen economic and cultural ties. Though the foundation is built around EU countries, Starline extends beyond, connecting regions that are economically and historically intertwined. Countries like England, no, there's no such thing as England. You mean the UK? Whoops. Turkey and Ukraine serve as examples, ensuring examples of what? Connecting regions that are economically and historically intertwined. The UK, Turkey, and Ukraine serve as examples. Baffled as to what examples they're talking about. Ensuring a high-speed network that reaches across the entire continent. Are they talking about the edges of the map? Maybe that's what they mean. Rail should not be limited by political borders when Europe's future depends on deeper connections. Well, I can absolutely agree with that. So we've got another fact box, everyone. Let's have a look at this fact box. B Crossing pointing out, this document seems to list vague problems, feelings of discontent, load of nonsense. Well, let's see. We're not at the bottom yet. We are like 4/10 of the way through at this point. 22,000 kilometres of high-speed rail across Europe. Okay, up to 80% fewer short-haul flights projected. Okay, marvellous. 41 stations, 30% faster than cars and traditional rail. That's not much. Should be faster, quite a lot faster than cars for high-speed rail, frankly. Okay, a more balanced continent. Right, okay, so this is more bait by the look of it. Patchwork of blah. Starline changes this, puts Eastern Europe on the high-speed map. Frankly, Eastern Europe are already doing that, mate. They're building high-speed rail lines like there's no tomorrow. A bit of stumble here and there, but the progress is happening now. Integrating cities like Kiev, Bucharest, Sofia into a seamless continental network brings Warsaw and Berlin within easy reach of each other, makes Belgrade and Budapest part of the same daily rhythm. That's already happening. They're doing that already. James, and no, I will make my face bigger for for next week. It's a thing. It's on my to-do list. So investment and ideas can flow across the continent unhindered by infrastructure gaps. Yeah, okay, fine. The future of Europe cannot be built on half a continent. It requires full connectivity. Well, okay. So what are you offering us then? How are you solving this? Speed is not just about getting people from A to B. Okay, more. Starline is designed. Okay, this is an important sentence. Starline is designed to operate at 300 to 400 kilometers an hour. What is designed to operate at 300 to 400? You haven't designed anything. So far, it's just pictures. You haven't shown us anything yet. It's a thing. Okay, fine. China's done this and that. Yes, it has. High speed, fine. Helsinki, Berlin takes just over 5 hours. Yeah, that again, fine. Yeah, agree with all that. Speed is not just about people. It's just as crucial for goods. Here we go. Starline integrates freight into its network, allowing high-value, time-sensitive goods like medical supplies, fresh produce, and critical manufacturing components to move at the same speed as passengers. This is a wonderful aspiration, but the logistics don't work. To do this, the speed of regular high-speed, regular freight basically achieves this for almost all goods, that you can move them on regular freight without needing to shove them on high-speed trains. It's not that there isn't a place for working out high-speed logistics with high-speed trains, but yeah, okay. You know what? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. A faster Europe means supply chains that are more resilient, reducing reliance on road freight. Yeah, fine. But if you're putting freight onto high-speed trains, you're not competing with road freight. Like, fundamentally, you're not competing with road freight. Road freight only really competes with it's rail and road freight are competitors. Air does not compete with road. But high-speed rail freight can compete with air. Factories can source materials quicker. You're not going to put those in a high-speed train. Businesses can operate with great. Okay, fine, whatever. Even the Starline map reflects this shift. Designed like a metro system, it changes how Europeans perceive their own continent. No, I'm pretty sure Schengen's done that already, frankly. Not as a collection of distant capitals, but as a single fast-moving network where every connection, whether for people or goods, is within easy reach. So again, Schengen has done that already with high-speed rail. So, what? Yeah, here's some pictures of stuff that's real. 1, 2, it's a taxi in New York, and it's a bus in London. And it's again the same fake Hyperloop picture. They haven't even done many renders. You can do better at this. Oh, we're looking at interiors. So, okay, trains are among the largest designed objects in daily life. That's a fun way to put that, I suppose. Their presence is undeniable. Oh, okay, moving architecture defines how people blah 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 blah. The design is rooted in clarity. No, it's rooted in not reality. This is heavy and will never move. Glass is extremely heavy. And we have no technology that we don't have, like clear aluminium or duranium from Star Trek yet. So the only thing you put in there is glass. And you're not getting that to be strong enough for it to be safe in a train. And by the time you put all that glass in, the train is going to weigh 3 or 4 times what an actual high-speed train would. The bench seats are an interesting choice. Is that just because that's what 3D object they could find to put in off Gary's mod? Who knows? So, right, there we go. An object... So here we go. Oh, yeah, there we are. As synonymous with movement in Europe as the red double-decker is in London or the yellow taxi with New York. It doesn't need to be, because railways already are. They occupy that space. The idea of the train... I kind of see what they're driving at, but I think it's the romance of travelling long distance by rail in Europe is already... This is a Scandinavian. It's Copenhagen, isn't it? So their rail connections aren't as good. If this was, I think you'd struggle to get away with coming up with this stuff if you lived in Paris or Brussels. Yeah, okay. Deep blue stands apart from the metallic anonymity of most trains. I mean, I would agree that train liveries are often pretty boring these days. People are asking, so that's why Shinkansen has the tiny windows. Yeah, it makes it super, super light. Yeah, genuinely, that is one of the reasons it's the windows are tiny, is because every inch square of window you get rid of, your train is substantially lighter, and it allows it to go super fast. So there we are. Let's see. Detours say those super time sensitive deliveries such as medical supplies that genuinely degrade over time are also typically low volume per unit value. You can basically put them on a seat, right? You just strap them into a seat, happy days. So super urgent freight could almost be done by a freight carriage. Yeah, quite. Even if not even smaller than that. Yeah, it can be done by you have a small modular area, or you have an area that is used for that it's mixed use for things like bicycles, buggies, large luggage that you can then also potentially have a modular little rack that you wheel in, and that, you know, that's where you put some of those high value goods. You know, it's easy to do that within the design of an existing train, and kind of those options already exist and happen now. Yeah, Red Star parcels vibes. Yeah. So have we learned anything from this? No. The design follows the same logic. No excessive ornamentation. No forced futurism. What? No forced futurism? What's this thing? What do you mean no forced futurism? You just made up a Hyperloop nonsensy thing to put in your picture. What is that if not forced futurism? Just a train that looks as purposeful as it moves. The stars along the sides are subtle. A quiet nod to Europe rather than a branding exercise. The result is a train that feels like it belongs. Not as a corporate product, but a product as part of the landscape of daily life. Okay, interior, a train for how we move today. So they're just saying stuff about interiors. I'm not reading anything unique or valuable here. There are quiet zones for focus, open areas for work and conversation, and family-friendly sections that make long journeys easy for the children. Sure, like all existing trains do in the mainland. Like German long-distance trains have a family bit, like and a creche area even. Cafe areas integrated the design, so kind of like the one I was in on the way back in the E374, sure. Dedicated cargo capacity, fine, yep. It's not luxury, it's rail design with the way people actually travel today. Okay. So we've learned nothing from that. Interesting. So that's the train. They've not talked about the actual train itself, why it's got the Hyperloop nonsense. Train stations. So, okay, train stations. They've not actually done any pictures of train stations. They've just reused the picture they've done of this. This is basically just a Substack story with a couple of 3D renders, isn't it? Yeah, ouch. Train stations have long been more than points of departure and arrival. They're markers of progress, statements of intent, and some of the most memorable public places the city can offer. I absolutely agree with that. I wrote a chapter in my book about it. I care very, very deeply about stations and the way that stations are designed. And what I'm reading here, wait a minute, Starline offers an entirely new approach. Okay. Starline offers instead of retrofitting the past, it proposes a network of new stations built just outside built just outside major cities to integrate seamlessly with existing transport systems while allowing for a scale and ambition that modern infrastructure demands. There we go, folks. There we go. So they're proposing parkway stations, out-of-city stations, which we know don't work so well. So, okay, so it's broken. So this is now broken. There we go. There's the big one, folks. That's the big, okay, yeah. Why are we building big new stations? You don't need to. We know we don't need to do that. There are plenty of stations that exist all over the place that show you don't need to do that. These will not be mere transport hubs. Each station will serve as a national landmark designed by the most visionary architects and designers of its respective country, sat out in a field a mile from the nearest bit of urban development. Yeah, okay. Why? Yeah. Whether it's a playfully designed terminal in Copenhagen, a sculptural station in Athens, or a grand public forum in Warsaw, each station will embody the distinct character of its city while collectively forming a network that symbolises where Europe is heading. Any pictures of these hubs? No. You're not going to show us a little hub in a field or next to what ultimately would be in mainland Europe. As anyone who travels around mainland Europe, it's like Britain but more. And so it's likely to be just next to a distribution centre or a large highway. Fascinating. Cultural hubs. Okay. The best stations are more than... One thing they could have said is we're going to swap airports for our stations. We're going to... Every major airport we're going to convert into a big station. Now that might have been interesting. But no. If they'd said that, I'd have been quite pleased. You'd be like, you know what? Cool. Okay. That's an interesting idea and one that I can kind of get on board with. But no, they're not doing that. Love having to take the train, the bus... take the train, the bus to the train, to the bus, to the train, to my destination. This is essentially what it'd be like. Yeah, well, you'd hope not. I'm sure if this was going to happen, they'd connect it up better. But again, suddenly you're like, yeah, but why? You've got a perfectly good inner-city high-speed station in many of these places already. Yeah, so again, they're doing the bait here. So the bait is best stations in one place to catch a train, that people gather, culture thrives, cities express themselves. Yep, that's already happens. Starline stations will be active public spaces in the outskirts. Not just transit points, incorporating cultural institutions in the outskirts, public squares in the outskirts, and venues that make them destinations in their own right in the outskirts. Okay, fine. Rather than simply mirroring airports, this is the moment. You could have said, rather than simply mirroring airports, Starline will demolish the airport and build a station there, where all the existing connections are. That's what they say, isn't it? Oh no. Starline stations will take the idea of a multi-use hub further, beyond restaurants. Okay. Concert halls, museums, sports venues, and event spaces. You don't need to do that. You don't need to waste all that carbon doing that, because those things are already in the city centre. This person's been working too much on NEOM. Right. Leveraging their functions as pan-European access points. This turns stations into gathering places for major cultural and sporting events in the outskirts, allowing Europeans to reach exhibitions, performances, blah, blah, okay. By placing these stations just outside city centres, here we go again, they remain highly accessible while avoiding the immense disruption that expanding central stations would create. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to even finish that section. I think you get the vibe. Clearing space for a brand new station and rail in the centre of an old European city. Well, no, the point is they're not doing that. They're doing it in the outskirts, but you don't clear the city centre. The majority of mainland Europe, you can use existing footprint because there's a decent wide footprint, or you just send it through in a tunnel to a box that you've built in the middle of, or under, or adjacent to your station, and tie it into your mainline station. It's doable. It's done all over the place. It's fine. We can do these things. Fulfillment hubs. Okay, so this is the bit about freight again. Fine. So we've got the same digital picture again. The Starline serves as a mobility platform. Right. So this is moving into a slightly different domain now. We're moving into the... Hello, Cariad. We're moving in... Hello, Ella, as well. We're moving into the world of the tickets bits. So let's talk about that. So a unified... So for Starline to function as more than just a network of tracks and trades requires a digital infrastructure as advanced as its physical one. Only reaches its full potential and supported by a system that ensures seamless ticketing, real-time coordination, and the efficient movement of both people and goods. We have all that now. An intelligent platform, it might not be fully perfect and tied together, but we have all that now. An intelligent platform should sit at the core of Starline, integrating data automation, particular capability, blah, 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 fine, yeah, whatever. All that is stuff that we have on railways now. They've just said it as if the railways don't have that. This platform should be open and adaptable. I mean, yeah, agree with the fact that it should be open. Agreed, yes. Allowing for continuous optimization, whatever. Just as modern air travel operates on global booking logistics standards, Starline should be built to interact with multiple providers and services across Europe. That is already the case. That exists now. Fine. So it's just saying stuff. So let's see. The unified ticketing system. Europe's rail system today remains fragmented. National operators run on separate booking platforms. Cross-border travel and necessarily complex. Yes, correct. A high-speed rail network on the scale requires a unifying ticketing experience. Starline should operate on an open ticketing platform, allowing multiple travel providers served to a third-party integrated directly. So it's not actually said it's going to solve any problems. All it's doing is adding another ticketing system into the overall mix. Crucially, this is not about centralising sales under a single operator, but about standardising access to rail travel across Europe, removing friction that currently drives passengers to the modes of transport. Okay. Not entirely clear how or why. Fine. Rail security, okay. A solid security system, right? This is where it's going to get real scary, I would suggest. Rail security today varies across Europe, minimal checks to full-scale airport-style screening. Starline should introduce... James, I give you free reign to introduce drops if you wish to. AI-driven sensor-based security. AI-driven sensor-based security. So that's AI facial recognition, which we know works really well and definitely doesn't just racially profile instantly. Sensor-based security that enables real-time monitoring of passenger flows without introducing bottlenecks. Instead of static checkpoints, an intelligent security system would adapt dynamically, racistly, using biometric verification, automated threat detection, oh lordy, and network-wide coordination to identify risks without requiring every passenger to stop and queue. Oh boy. This approach mirrors how next-generation airports are deploying continuous security layers, ensuring safety without compromising efficiency. Yeah, and that's done so well with how much those systems are discriminating against certain types of people. A system of this scale must also account for cyber threats. Starline's digital platform should be built on secure, decentralized infrastructure protecting both passenger data and operation. Okay, whatever, yeah, it's just standard cybersecurity stuff. It's that picture again, and this picture appears to be Kermit the Frog with some business cards resting on his knees. It's not easy being green. Okay, fine. So, a fully renewable network. Okay, let's see what they do. So that was a bit of a mess. Let's see what they do with this. Starline's energy system should be designed not just for efficiency, but long-term energy independence. The network must be powered by renewables. I mean, yeah, that's fine, but that's easy to do. You just increase the percentage of renewables in the grid and make sure there's enough renewables to do the energy that you're generating. Rather than relying entirely on national grids, oh, here we go. Starline should incorporate smart energy management, storing excess power during low demand and optimizing consumption based on real-time network activity. Just let the grid do that. You don't need to rebuild that capacity within the railway. Just let the grid do that. Take the power off the grid and put it back in the grid if you've got regenerative trains. But let the grid deal with all that. The rail industry doesn't need to do it. This approach should, Leo, catch me if I'm correct speaking nonsense on that one. This approach would reduce operating costs, increase resilience against energy shortages, and set a new benchmark for sustainable transport infrastructure. What approach? You don't send anything. You don't send anything that's real. Okay, real-time information. Well, okay, tracking. Passengers be able to see their live train status again. We have that. Estimated arrival times. We have that. Platform details with precision. We have that. Removing uncertainty, improving reliability. That's all things we have. For freight, we don't necessarily have that as much as we should. This is a fair point. But again, it's nothing particularly exciting. Like it's used in various places. Most people can track their container boxes all over the place, so that's fine. Here's the map. Now, what are we noticing about this map? What am I noticing about the map? I'm noticing that I don't know what the hell is going on between London and Liverpool. I don't know why there's a loop up here. That seems strange. So Paris, Brussels, Antwerp, Amsterdam. That's real. Amsterdam, Berlin doesn't exist. It's interesting that what's then going on with Hamburg. Yeah, okay. Interesting choice of network connectivity from Hamburg through to... Yeah, okay, yeah, fine. But again, yeah. What a weird network. Why is it doing some of these things? And what about if you want to go from Kiev to Lisbon? Yeah, okay. What about Belgrade to... So all of a sudden, so Belgrade, Budapest to Vienna becomes the normal route. Okay, you know what? Fine. It's interesting that they've tactically kept Belgrade apart from Sarajevo and Zagreb and Ljubljana. I would say that Zagreb, Belgrade is anyway. Okay, again, fine. It just doesn't. It's just lines. They've just gone, here are all the dots, and let's just vaguely draw lines between them. Okay, this is not useful in any way whatsoever. What are we gaining? What are we learning or gaining here? Well, nothing. Doesn't know that we're gaining anything. It's illegal to make one of these if you know anything about the subject matter. Moderator, you're absolutely spot on. Yeah, I'm puzzled by this. It's just what's it get? Why? Okay, so yeah. Oh god, the map is coming. AI automatic threat detection. Watchdogs came true. Yeah. Dublin to Kiev pub crawl, says Lewis. Yeah, absolutely. Nerdian is saying. Nerdian 1 is saying. Am I correct in that saying that there's already Amsterdam Frankfurt through Arnhem? Yeah, but this is a new network that's using bits of existing somehow, but also completely new stuff too. So, okay. This sort of map angers me because there's no indication of what exists now, what is currently in planning, and what is proposed infrastructure. And as a result of that, this whole thing is just purposeless. Like what is it? A plan is not just a map in isolation. You'll recall with the most recent thing that we've done to this end has been the Glasgow subway map, right? Or the metro map, sorry, not subway map, the Glasgow metro map. And you'll see how, when I was talking about what that overall plan looks like, I was showing what are the gaps, what are the challenges, what might they look like, and how might you progress those, how might you deliver some of that infrastructure, what are the key things that you need, the big ticket items that you deliver that unlock some of those options and opportunities. And this is just going map with colors. Oh, it's like, this is just not useful or helpful at all. In fact, it's actively damaging. Also, what are all the stars for? Is that just how many lines go into the place? Is that what it is? Yeah, maybe. I don't like this map. For a variety of reasons, I don't like this map. But mostly I don't like this map because it's like, exactly as Networker Fan 465 365 just said, what is new lines and what is existing lines? Who knows? Deirdre is saying it's missing so many connections. Yeah, absolutely. Dunning-Kruger says Moderati. Yeah. George GJ Marsh is saying this painfully reminds me of the old NPR map that made zero sense. No one could tell what's new, what isn't, what's being built when. End result, no one knew what NPR was. Yeah, exactly. Well, that was deliberate for political reasons. Gareth is saying, different Gareth to me, everyone. Most of you know this already. Hello to new viewers, by the way. Nice to see you. Brilliant Amsterdam is a thing, according to my European rail timetable. Yeah, absolutely. Table 22, 8 trains a day. Yeah, quite. This map really feels like, you already worked on this. Well, get bent. Yeah, they should partner them with Novomo, made for each other. Well, quite. Milan to Frankfurt via Zurich and Munich. Yeah, Milan, Frankfurt via Zurich and Munich. Oh yeah, that's an interesting choice, isn't it? Yeah, fascinating. Just strange. So that was the map. The Starline setup potential scenarios. Okay, interesting. So here we go. So this will get to the conclusion of our piece, really, where we say, okay, well, what's their plan for delivering this? We're now at 8 out of 10 to 8/10 of the way through this. For Starline to become a reality, it must be efficiently operated, transparently governed, and sustainably funded. Okay, requires central coordination for trains, passenger experience, and technology, while allowing national rail operators to run routes under a franchise model. Wait a minute, what? I thought you said this was simplicity. National rail operators will run routes under a franchise model. What? Operating model should be structured as a publicly funded, privately operated system. Well, that's convenient for the private operators. Designed to maximise efficiency while ensuring strong public oversight. Standardised experience, whatever. Franchise-based operation model. Because that just works so well. It works so well. Could be run by approved national rail companies, each responsible for specific routes under a common framework. So this suddenly got extremely complicated all of a sudden. Okay. Cross-border border workforce and standards. Yep, fine. So that's just like harmonised labour agreements. Yes, that's a good idea. Technical standards. We already have that. TSIs and safety regulations. Again, TSIs. So that's, yeah, fine. Whatever. The governance model should operate under a single set of technical safety and labour regulations. I mean, again, we kind of mostly do that. Governed through the EU. Non-EU nations participating should have advisory roles similar to... Okay, fine. While the initial network is defined, an independent expansion board within the ERA should continuously evaluate future routes, station development. What initial network is... Right, funding model. Right, this is the interesting one. Large-scale infrastructure requires long-term investment. Starline should be positioned as a strategic European project, aligning with the Draghi report's call for investment in the continent's competitiveness and resilience. Starline should be financed through a combination of EU infrastructure budgets, European Investment Bank funding, and long-term EU bonds. I mean, sure, ensuring that the network is built as a shared European asset, not a patchwork of national investments. Okay. While EU funds should cover the backbone of the network, national governments should co-finance their respective stations and regional connections. The private sector can play a role in station development, commercial services, and logistics operations. Ticket prices should be significantly lower than short-haul flights. Yep, agreed. Ultimately, the goal is not to maximise profit, but to make high-speed rail the default choice for European travel. Sure. Starline's dedicated freight network would provide a steady revenue stream, allowing companies to... Okay, so that's not really laying out a funding model. It's just a nice to have. What's next? Starline is an invitation to rethink how Europe moves. It's not just a proposal for high-speed rail. No, it isn't a proposal for high-speed rail, in fact. It's meant to ignite conversation. Well, yeah, sure. A starting point for reimagining connectivity across the continent, sure. Now, I would have more respect for this if they'd talked about the existing network and what needs to change to shift us into the future. If they'd gone to the existing network, this bit's still too slow, then that would also be interesting. But just as much as it is about infrastructure, Starline's about ideas. Yeah, you said that in the previous paragraph. Fine. The future is not a destination, it's a direction. So there you have it. We've reached the end. Go on, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this particular particular thing here. I'm going to go with, I'm not a huge fan of that at all. Remotely, in fact. So, I'm going to go further than what they're saying about their... Do chuck questions in. I'll pick them up. I'll pick them up at the end now, so because we'll pick up at a canter and then pick some questions up towards the end. Right. So I want to round this off. So that's a bit silly, frankly. And there's an opportunity with things like that to be quite interesting and do something that's useful and actually pushes the conversation forwards. What this has done is, rather than pushing the conversation forwards, it's created a new conversation over there that very few people will have. Some wonks will have it for a bit, and then it fizzles out and doesn't achieve anything. So it's not even like it's benefiting them. They would have done and achieved more had they tied what they were doing into the reality, the practical realities of the network that actually exists. But the key thing that I think is really important is this, really, which is the plan is not just a destination. It is a journey. You have to explain how you're actually going to materially get there. And this doesn't do that. It doesn't talk about any timescales. It doesn't talk about any real discussions of funding. It just kind of very aspiration says, the EU should fund this. It's like, oh, okay. Now, there are better alternatives to this that are perhaps as ambitious, but are much more grounded in reality. And we're going to talk about one of those in a few episodes' time, which is the CER. My face is in front of the logo, but the CER, which is it's like a pan-European kind of rail organisation. They have created a 2050 European high-speed rail master plan. And it does go into what exists, what doesn't exist, what would need to be upgraded. And it describes what that can unlock in terms of a decent amount of data, understanding what the benefits of that are. And I'm keen to pick through that plan in the future and how it looks to be and how it intends to be delivered. But this is much more like closer to what you want to be considering and discussing, which is going, well, what's the current high-speed network? What would an idealized high-speed network look like to achieve maximum connectivity to the major cities across the continent? That starts... These proposals are extremely ambitious. More ambitious, I would say, much more ambitious than the whatever nonsense we've just looked at. But they also go into details about being specific in why and how they can be funded and what process and progress you would take to deliver the work. And we're going to dig into that a little bit later. There's a distinct lack of Holyhead on this map. No, it's there. It's just a funny little lump. So that is that's really all. It's kind of all I want to say on that, to be honest. Yeah, conscious of time, but also I just wanted to put those plans out there. I think we've suitably gone through and picked out the key red flags. On the outskirts being one of them, I would suggest. Interesting. So, the usual outro plugs I think we should go to, and I'll pick up some questions. Do chuck questions at me, and I will pick up those questions at the end. The usual outros. This podcast is available on audio-only platform, all good podcasting platforms, and critically, it will be available, well, firstly, more reliably in terms of timing, but also as a more tightly clipped version of the podcast. Now, if you're sad about losing all the waffle and nonsense, then you can probably have a situation where you can download the YouTube and listen to that, I think, if you have premium. And if you don't, if you are really upset about it, email me and give me that feedback, message me, send me a message, or send me on Spotify. A couple of people have put that message on Spotify saying, but I like the nonsense. I think that we will widen our reach if we have a tighter audio product. So I think it's a useful thing to do with RailNatter is to tighten that all up. But all good podcasting platforms, you can listen to it. Do leave a message. GarethDennis.co.uk/merch for the merchandise. GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord for the chat to continue ad infinitum, which is joyous. I'd lovely to see all of you in there. A nice lively chat. Hello to the 150, 160 people who are watching this. And of course, the plug for the Patreon, patreon.com/GarethDennis. There will be more bonus stuff. There will be a post-Natter, a reliable post-Natter bonus episode that will be happening. We'll be embedding that in a month or so. And a few changes. One of the key ones for Patreon folk is some consolidation of the tiers, and also for free members. I don't know why that was ever a functionality. I don't know what it does, and you don't get anything on the Patreon if you're a free member. So I don't know quite how I'm going to do it, but I think I'll be stripping that functionality out. So you'll be abandoned. If you're a free member now, bump up to a tier, £1 or £5 or whatever it ends up being. Otherwise, you won't be on that anymore, because I'll be stripping that out and bumping all those people, I think, although I'm not quite sure how to do that yet, but I'll get on there. But the key thing is there will be consistent, reliable stuff for Patreon people, including the weekly bonus episode, the kind of the episode after an episode that you'll get, which will be things like a Q&A. It will be one of the fun things I think we'll do is that people will ask a question. You'll be able to ask a question in the Discord. There'll be a particular channel for it, or on Patreon, and I'll pick up those questions and then answer the question not just as an offhanded, off the top of my head, but with a bit of detail and potentially some visual aids in the following week's bonus episode. So that's kind of how that will work. I think that'll be quite fun and interesting. So it'll be Patreon-led questions that I will then answer in a bit more detail. It'll be exclusive for the Patreon folks, and a few other bits of bonus fun. A reminder, hopetowndarlington.co.uk/what's-on/Gareth-Dennis-talks. It's a hell of a URL. To come and watch me talk about all things railways, the pre-1825 history railways and the beyond 2025 future of railways. That's on the Wednesday the 4th of June and Wednesday the 10th of September. It will be at 2 p.m, so it will be a during the day thing. Please do come along. Get booking those tickets, so that because the last one had to get cancelled because there was no one booking in. It's really important that you book ahead, because then I know people are coming, and I know that when I have my train tickets paid for to come and do the event, I'm not putting them out of pocket, which is why I cancelled the previous one, because I didn't want the venue to give me money that they weren't making back in tickets. It would be embarrassing. We can do better. Come on, folks, come and join me for this one. I know it's a bit of a weird time of day to be 2 p.m. in Darlo. But it's a nice venue. It'll be fun. We'll get a chance to have a walk around. I'll be around a little bit before and after, so you can come and say hello. Bring your book along. As previously hinted at, the book tour might not happen this year because there's no longer anyone organising it for me. So that means that I can't organise it myself. So I don't know whether it's actually going to happen at all. So this might be the book tour. So bring your books along. We'll get them signed. That's hopetowndarlington.co.uk. Just to be honest, search Hopetown Darlington Gareth Dennis Talks and it should come up. And you'll get my mustachy face like this and the description of what's coming up. The two talks from ancient Greece to California, longer history of railways, and keeping humanity moving, the railways of the future. So that's should be some really nice, interesting things. But bring your books. My publisher's been decimated by Watkins, its owning group, who've sacked everyone and made a real hash of it because of Palestinian solidarity reasons, or indeed the opposite of those. Next week, slight change to the programme. I don't know, actually. I think I maybe left it blank. Next week, we're going to be talking about a new rail line in North Wales. Yes, Gareth, you sent these plans through, and we're going to be looking through them. We're going to be looking at the Bangor to Avon Wen rail line report. We'll mark that report out of Pandrel clips, as ever we do, in how clear it is, how good the information is, and what I think it says, and how ambitious it is. It'll be interesting to have a look through that. It's a long report, so it might be that this ends up being a two-parter, but I'll more on that shortly. But I'm going to pick through that. It'll be a classic PDF page turn, but focusing a bit onto the sort of salient stuff. So I'll whiz through. I will try and keep it to one episode. That's the plan. Yes, that should be an interesting one. Let's answer some questions, shall we? Let's have a little look. So let's have a look. Top left-hand corner, Wales, exactly. So, have I seen the station expanses of Utrecht Centraal, finished 2017-ish, and Edda Wageningen, is that right? Yeah, I presume so. Might be neat to look into. They remained mostly functional. No, that'd be very interesting. If you've got a good source to have a look through that, that'd be, do send it through. Check it on the Discord and at me. Let's have a look. Victoria Almori, should railway junctions be standardised for easier implementation of high-speed rail around Europe? Well, they are to an extent standardised. You find they often across Europe they'll use a fairly standardised set. The VDV, the VDV set of switches is a commonly used standard across Europe. The German switch design, equally there's a French set that gets used commonly. They're largely pretty standardised already, to be honest. Groundhog RDG, thanks for that. Gareth, first time I've caught a live stream. Still need to drop me an email about Edinburgh. We'll get on it tonight. Oh, yes, please. Do that, Groundhog. Yes. GJ Marshy, very tempted to knock up a where you should be able to get to direct from London map. Bit of campaigning, but maybe more realistic. Yeah, perhaps. Can I design an Edinburgh metro system? Network of Fan asks. It's on my list. Let's see what we can do in Edinburgh, what we would benefit. Nerdium1 asks, how did I enjoy Belgium? It was fun feeling the exact tracks you were as you uploaded the shorts. I love Belgium. I enjoy spending time in Belgium. I think I love Bruges. It's an absolute joy and delight. I've been there several times. It's one of my favourite places on the planet. It's just an absolute joy and delight to go there. I enjoyed Antwerp. I wasn't there very long. It was very much in and out because I can only be away from home so much. So, but I got really good vibes off Antwerp. Really liked Antwerp. It was really nice. That looks to be all the queries and questions there. Oh yeah, Mr. Guy Snail saying that they left their rage edit on this map on the Discord. Yeah, absolutely, it's in Rail IDs. Yeah, for those who are not familiar, the Discord has loads of good channels of all sorts of discussions, fairly topical discussions of what we cover in Rail Natter, and yeah, it's a really cool place. And of course, yes, the Patreon people get a bit of an exclusive part of that, where I share pictures of shenanigans and plans and proposals and potential episode ideas and things of this nature. Anyway, right, that's enough from me. It's 21:05. I've run 5 minutes late already. Marvellous. A joy and a delight to see all of you here. I will wave vigorously and say cheerio. I hope any of you who might have been at the PWI conference today enjoyed it. I enjoyed hosting the session and then representing the kind of the open session on the panel. It was good, which is why I'm wearing my suit and looking for snazzy. Anyway. On which note, cheerio, cheerio.